Okay. Um, I don't, I think that it was shared also on our social media and the posting that we've done in the store. So that just started a few days ago. So this is great that we're catching up with you so early in the month.
Yeah, it is. Oh, yeah, it's only the third. So good timing.
Yeah, yeah. So I just want to introduce you, Jason Smith, is executive director of the Michigan Center for Youth Justice. And tonight, the People's Food Co-op Linkage Committee is hosting a virtual conversation with this amazing nonprofit. So, Jason, take it away.
Well, thank you, and thank you to the People's Food Co-op for supporting our work, supporting our organization, and for yeah, I'm just happy to be a part of a community with people that are so interested in youth justice work. So, my name is Jason Smith. I've been with the Michigan Center for Youth Justice for about 7 years. It'll be 7 years in July. Even before working there, I interned with the Michigan Center for Youth Justice while I was in grad school. All of my work before coming to MCYJ has been in the field of youth justice, juvenile justice. I worked in direct service. I was a juvenile probation officer actually for a couple of years and ran diversion programs here in Michigan and also in the Chicago area. So working with and for at youth who are at risk of becoming court involved or court involved is a passion for me. And it's why I love the work that I do at the Michigan Center for Youth Justice so much. Um, so wanted to just share a little background about who MCYJ is, and then how we do our work, some of the pending or projects that we're working on currently, and then ways that community members can, further ways that they can support our work. So, Michigan Center for Youth Justice is a very old organization. It's actually over 60 years old. Um, for most of our history, our name was the Michigan Council on Crime and Delinquency. It actually started as a state-based organization and then over time transitioned to being a nonprofit, which it currently is. Um, Most of the time, the org's history, we worked on policy issues related to the justice system, both in the youth system, the juvenile justice system, and then also the adult system as well. And that kind of ebbed and flowed which system we focused on over the years. As I said, my background is mostly youth justice, and that has been the case of a lot of the staff that have come through the organization in the last, I would say, decade or so. And so, really, that's been our focus for the last couple of years. And last year, last January, actually, we made the decision to officially change our focus to exclusively focusing on kids and not adults. And the reason we did that is one, the skill set of the staff and the passion of the staff, but then also there are a lot of organizations, some you all may be aware of here, that focus on the adult system and mass incarceration and the adult criminal justice system, but there wasn't any organization that was specifically focused on young people who come in contact with the law.
Mhm.
And we believe that focusing on kids who come in contact with the justice system or at risk of becoming justice system involved is a way to reduce mass incarceration in the adult system. If
Mhm.
you truly want to reduce crime, increase public safety, make sure that young people transition to being healthy, thriving adults, you make sure that their needs are addressed when they're young, make sure that the juvenile justice system, we like to call it the youth justice system, is not a vehicle to the adult system, that it's really rehabilitative, not punitive like the adult system often is. And that's why we made the decision to exclusively focus on that population and that system particularly. Um, we try to affect change through three ways. the way that the thing that we're most known for is policy reform. We do statewide legislative advocacy for changing laws at the state level. In recent years, we have had successful campaigns like the campaign to raise the age of juvenile jurisdiction here in Michigan from 17 to 18. Before the law changed here in Michigan, it was actually Halloween, October 31st, 2019. Michigan was one of only 4 states in the entire country that still automatically uh, charges and prosecutes all kids, 17-year-olds, as adults, no matter what their offense is, stealing something to even more serious things. They were all charged as adults. And just so you know, the other 3 states that are remaining are Wisconsin, Georgia, and Texas. So we were one of 4 at the time, and that was a very long campaign that we were involved with. It took us about 5 to 6 years to actually, from the start, to actually getting the legislation signed into law. Last year, we worked on a campaign to advocate for passage of new laws that would increase the protections of juvenile records for kids. The protections of records for kids. Yeah, it's a bit of an echo.
Just let me, I don't know. Somebody called in and go ahead.
Yeah, sorry, that's okay. But yeah, to improve juvenile record confidentiality. So now, before this law changed, well, I won't say all, but most juvenile records were available to the general public. So you or me or anyone else would be able to walk down to any courthouse, any county courthouse, and access a kid's records and know a lot of sensitive information about their case. Now that the new law change went into effect, most records are now not available to the general public, and also it increases new opportunities or expands opportunities for young people to have their records expunged. So if you successfully complete your court supervision, and you went into the system at 14 and you're 17 now and you're ready to apply for college or get a job or something like that, you could do so without having to state on the job application that you were adjudicated of an offense. And it's really our mindset that young people, kids are kids, even when they get into trouble, and that they should have the ability to move beyond their offense and not held back by it for the rest of their life. So that's legislative reform. And we do that through all types of strategies and grassroots mobilization, doing events like this where we educate people on our work and then try to mobilize them to act, educating legislators and actually helping to craft bills like we did in the juvenile records case. Actually, Senator Jeff Irwin was of Washtenaw County was the bill sponsor, one of the lead bill sponsors for the juvenile records bills. And then the second way is doing work directly with local jurisdictions. So here in Michigan, our juvenile justice system, our youth justice system is decentralized. So in other states, the youth justice system is managed at the state level through some Department of Juvenile Justice or Child and Family Services or something like that. You know, here in Michigan, the system is mostly managed at the local level, at the county level. And so the resources allocated to juvenile courts, the philosophy of the use of community-based treatment or detention or long-term residential care as an intervention for a kid really can vary county by county. And so we know that as much as we work on legislative reform at the statewide level, that there are times where we need to work with local communities to make reforms. And we try to do that as much as possible, as much as court stakeholders will work with an advocacy group. We try our best to do so. One example that just happened recently that we're really proud of is Macomb County's juvenile court charged families really high amounts of juvenile court fees for a range of things, probation supervision and detention stays, and even being served by a court-appointed attorney. Um, we were able to work with them to show through data, their own data, that they worked with collaboratively and provided that the cost of actually charging these families and the cost of actually trying to attempt to collect the revenue from these fines and fees that they were charging was more than they were bringing in revenue. They were actually losing money. And so not only were they, not getting the revenue that they thought they were getting some, but not, it wasn't worth the impact that it was having on families. And I can say that with all the problems, and we're always advocating for change, the system is an evolving system. So even when one great thing happens, you have to move on to the next to try to make an improvement. That the system has shifted to become more treatment oriented and rehabilitative compared to where we were during the tough on crime era in the 80s and 90s, where incarceration really was the overutilized intervention for the system. We were able to convince Macomb that if their goal is to be rehabilitative and treatment focused and really engage families and kids, that charging them fees and putting a huge financial burden on them, actually gets in the way of that. It creates a barrier, it creates a wedge. And they were receptive to that and agreed just a couple of weeks ago to fully eliminate the assessment of juvenile court fines and fees and discharged all the outstanding debt that they had. I mean, they had about $84 million of outstanding debt that were hanging over families' heads that they decided to eliminate, which is a huge thing, a model for the state, and then will hopefully encourage legislators to look at reform at the statewide level. We always try to develop pilots and use those models to advocate for our statewide reforms. And so then the third thing is just simply public education, whether it's an issue that we are working on at the moment or have funding to work on, but it's something that's pressing. We try to highlight the need to address particular concerns in the youth justice system with the public and with stakeholders. An example of that is COVID and the pandemic. So we knew, as you all probably know, that facilities like nursing homes, right, was a big concern during the pandemic as like a place that could really make the virus spread. And so too is the case in prisons and jails and juvenile detention facilities. And so we had a strong campaign to advocate to the governor's office and the Michigan Supreme Court and police, whoever would listen, that during the pandemic, we need to be able to reduce as a state, reduce the number of kids going into facilities, reduce the admissions, and look at the kids that are currently being incarcerated to make decisions on who can be let out. And the governor's office created an executive order that was really focused on adult prisons, but included language around juvenile facilities that took a lot of the language from our letter to them that said, really reduce the admissions and expedite release for kids whom are not an immediate and significant safety risk. This entire year, we've done 2 reports looking at data in the justice system to see what the actual response was to the pandemic. And we were able to find that statewide detention admissions did decline. Now, it didn't stay low for the entire year, and some counties did a better job of decreasing admissions for non-safety risks than others, but by and large, it did happen. And so we always try to balance our advocacy and highlighting the problems with what's happening, the good things that are happening. And that's the way that you maintain as positive relationships as you can with the justice stakeholders. And we won't agree on everything, but where we can partner, we try to, because there are good people who work in these systems, especially in the youth system, people who care about kids, but sometimes policy and bureaucracy and other things get in the way sometimes. So I kind of hinted at it, but one of the active campaigns that we're currently doing right now is to eliminate statewide the assessment and collection of juvenile court fines and fees. It disproportionately impacts youth of color, Black and brown youth, impoverished families. Like I said about Macomb, it gets in the way of the treatment and parental and family engagement you want in the youth justice system. And we're hoping that, because the microscope is on the justice system at large here in Michigan and nationwide, both in the adult system and the youth justice system, that this policy and practice that's really unfair and harmful, especially during a pandemic. And that was another, we also did advocacy around that as well, to highlight that, at any time, there's so much financial uncertainty for families. You don't want to be charging them. And we saw families that had bills, not just in Macomb, but in other places that were $50,000, $60,000, $70,000, $100,000 for juvenile court costs. And this is not restitution to a victim, repaying a victim for some sort of property damage or harm caused. This is purely cost of care and services that no other public institution charges, schools or community mental health, for the services that they render. We're hoping that we'll see bills introduced that would mirror what happened in Macomb, eliminate those type of fines and fees, and hopefully put this behind us in a year or so. And then for the future, we're hoping that we can look more into the school to prison pipeline space, examine the points of origin for why young people come into the system in the first place. That's what drives a lot of the racial disparities you see, is where the delinquency petitions that go to the court are actually coming from. We're also hoping that we look at community policing more, both in the schools, but then also in communities as well. Again, arrest driving court involvement. For a lot of our history, we focused on the conditions of confinement or the conditions of court supervision once a young person's already in the system. But we want to go a bit more upstream and actually reduce court involvement as much as possible. So, that's what we're working on right now. We recently hired a community outreach and engagement manager who's working to establish a volunteer ambassador program where we recruit people to do our work in their local communities. Again, everything is local when it comes to the youth justice system here. We're developing advocacy hubs. We actually just launched one here in Washtenaw, and we're partnering with some faith-based groups to get those off the ground. But yeah, that's essentially our work. I encourage everyone to visit our website to learn more about what we do. It's www.miyouthjustice.org. It gives you the opportunity to sign up for our newsletter. As soon as you get on the website, a thing will pop up asking you for your info, and you can stay in touch with us and get information, but then also ways that you can help.
Excellent. So I'm very impressed with all the policy work that you're doing and the policy impact. How many people are working for the center right now?
Gosh, so we have I feel bad. The staff, if they saw this video, they'd be like, "Come on, Jason." We have 5 salaried staff, and then we have so many great contractors that we work with on individual projects. We have a great communication consultant who does all of our press releases and sets up interviews for us and things like that. We have a great development director. We have a lot of great people. Our core is very small. Our salaried staff is very small, but we have a huge army of contractors and volunteers and supporters that help us out with our work.
Excellent. Yeah. Other questions?
I just want to say hi, Amanda, because Amanda joined.
Hi, Amanda.
I have a question. I apologize for my mic. My headphones aren't working properly, so it's kind of not a great mic. But how can a place like the Co-op, I guess, better publicize your organization and what they do, especially during this month in which you are our key recipient. Yeah, I guess like where do we point people? What direction do we point people in when they want to know more about you?
Sure. So I would say our website again, and where they will have access to all of our publications, all the reports that I talked about, like the COVID reports and that Macomb report about that project we just completed. All of that's on our website, as well as information about our various campaigns and other projects. But social media, I mean, we are very active. Fafa Mayan is does our social media for MCYJ, and she does an amazing job on everything. I'm not on Instagram, but apparently we're doing pretty good there too. But we share a lot of information about our work, and just interesting articles about youth justice news here in Michigan and around the country too. We also do trainings. Like our goal is to promote best practices as much as possible. So whether we're educating people about it or providing trainings with skilled professionals to help people who work with kids have the skill sets they need to serve them appropriately, treat them appropriately, we will do. So we share that information on our social media too. So follow us on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter. We're active everywhere.
Another question here. For volunteerism, what kind of volunteers would be well suited for what you are looking for, and what kind of work might they be doing in your organization?
So they can do a range of things. It could be short-term volunteerism, writing an op-ed in your local news about a particular issue that we're working on. One of the things that we feel is really key to success is legislators and whether they're state legislators or local folks, county commissioners or local government, hearing from their residents that they support the work that we do and highlighting issues that we're working on. So, and having a diverse range of voices and perspectives. Sharing that message to audiences that may not be receptive to me doing it or other members of our organization doing it. That's always helpful. We do public education events from time to time. We have presentations we give on various issues we're working on. We can train local supporters to do those events and host events in their own communities. Okay. We always are looking for stories of families and young people that are impacted by the justice system, either positively or negatively. But for this debt-free justice, which is what we're calling that campaign, we're really looking for families that were impacted by juvenile court fines and fees to share about how that's impacted them, to really make the case for eliminating them. Supporting us with fundraising, like the People Food Co-op is doing, but there's other ways to do that. Yeah, there's many ways that you can support us, long-term or short-term, whatever you have the capacity and the ability to do.
Excellent, thank you. Any other questions?
Not for me, but I'm writing this all down.
Yeah, well,
yeah, this is, yeah, great.
Well, excellent, Jason. I really thank you for your time tonight. I'm, again, blown away and amazed by the great work that your organization does. And I'm proud to be part of the co-op and supporting you.
Thank you so much. Thank you, Ray, Pat, and Amanda. And I'm proud to live in a county and work in a county that's so supportive of the work that we do. So I really appreciate that, and I appreciate the Food Co-op.
Thank you. Thank you. Well, have a good evening, and goodbye to everybody. Enjoy the rest of the evening in the sun out there.
All right.
Thanks for your time.
Yeah, thank you, everybody. Take care. Have a good night.
Good luck. Talk to you soon.